How can we restart the lymphatic flow, or rather address lymphatic stasis in our bodies? Very few people actually know what lymph is or understand the lymphatic system. In general, the vast majority only know about the circulatory system. That's why in this video, I want to address this and give you as much information as possible about lymph and how to activate it. My name is Vladimir. I'm a physical therapist and massage instructor with over 20 years of experience, and I teach people how to take care of themselves through videos like this. First of all, let's understand what lymph is and what its role is in the body. We know that 5 to 6 liters of blood circulate in our body every minute, but lymph, well, parallel to the circulatory system, which is divided into arterial, going down from the heart, and venous, going back up from the limbs. And the third system is the lymphatic system, because if we were to lay an adult's blood vessels end to end, they would stretch for 150 kilometers. But if we laid a person's lymphatic vessels end to end, we could circle the world 5 times. That's why we often don't realize the crucial role and function of lymph in the body. We also call lymph an immunoprotective organ. In common terms, we call it immunity. It protects our body from all external factors, from all infections, bacteria, everything from the outside environment that tries to invade our internal environment and take over our body. Therefore, the only autoimmune system, well, that fights all external microbes and bacteria is our lymphatic system. But it circulates 2 to 3 times slower than blood. For example, many of us, when squeezing a pimple, see a white, transparent, colorless substance come out. Many think it's just plasma, but it's actually plasma mixed with lymph. So what lymph basically does is, if we don't move, for instance with bedridden patients, that's why you have to turn them every 2 hours. You have to rotate them, lift them, sit them up, move them from side to side, because otherwise tissue necrosis can occur. And many bedridden people who aren't turned end up needing surgery due to tissue necrosis simply because they weren't moved for several hours. For example, if they're left in the evening and found in the same position the next morning. I'm talking about paralyzed patients or those post-surgery who need procedures to remove that necrosis, and because of it, they often don't survive and pass away. Basically, we must understand that every person needs to move. Lymph in the body serves to soften the tissue, but when we don't move, lymph becomes thick like sour cream. It circulates, but it's thick and very restricted, and when we don't move, it hardens and ossifies well like lime. If we take lime, it's liquid, right? Or in construction, we coat a wall and it dries and hardens. Yes, our body is exactly like that. That's why, as long as we keep moving, I always give examples. People who don't move, right? Why I'm for stretching the body, working on elasticity, because when we don't move a joint, meaning the heel doesn't reach the knee, the foot doesn't reach up, meaning we can't place the foot, we can't do this exercise, or the elbow doesn't reach behind the head, or we can't bend down. This means that the lymph is stagnant. These are the first signs of lymph stagnation. Therefore, by constantly moving, constantly doing these exercises, these are the first things, very important things for us to, first of all, activate the lymph. Why the person who doesn't move? First of all, what do they end up with? They end up with canes. If you've reached a crutch, the next step, that's the second crutch. The next step is a wheelchair, and the next step is the coffin. Do you understand? I don't want to scare you with this video, but I want you to understand that if you've ended up in a wheelchair, the chance of getting up is gone. The next chance is the coffin. It's important to understand. Yes, it's hard, it's painful, it's not pleasant, it's impossible. There is no impossible. Even when you're in bed, you can take your hand and move it. You can take your hand and move it. You can take your hand and move it. You can rotate right, left. I'll give you a very good exercise. Vibration. But look, therapeutic vibration. We can do the vibration of one limb, the vibration of the second limb. When we vibrate, right, our blood microcirculation, the lymph slowly starts to circulate, especially since it circulates from the bottom up, right, from the limbs up, and that's why the gastrocnemius, right, the calf muscles, right, are also called the lymphatic pump, meaning they pump all the lymph upwards. That's why it's very common in Europe in the evening you've eaten at 5, 6, maximum 7, and after 7 o'clock they walk until 9 o'clock. I don't know if you've been to Italy to see. I've seen these traditions and they inspired me a lot, and I liked it. Meaning after you've eaten, before going to bed, to take a walk, to walk 1 kilometer, 2, 3, so that you move. Respectively, this will make you feel better as much as possible. Another example, people in the city have a gym or parks, but people in the countryside, right? The elderly, or there's the hoe and the garden. For them, the hoe and the garden, that's for the city person, the gym and the park, right? Exactly the same. That's why I always say the old lady who will always hold the hoe in her hand, and as long as she uses the hoe, she will live. The moment she lets go of the hoe, she will no longer live. Therefore, this hoeing is movement. It's you bending down, you moving, you rotating, you take it from here, you put it there. Do you understand? This is movement. Therefore, if you live in the city and don't move much, you don't have much left. I don't want to be pessimistic and negative, but I want you to understand that movement is the most important link. At least go to the building stairs, move up and down. As long as you move up and down the stairs to the top floor and back down at least a few rounds or laps a day, because you know and encounter situations where some can't go up, others can't go down. I mean, it's very hard for them to go down because they have joint pain, and that's normal. All the joints are inflamed. There's a chronic inflammatory process in the body. That's exactly why this is the problem. The fact that it hurts, the fact that you can't, that's no excuse. On the contrary, these are reasons for you to start moving, to do it so that every day you unblock yourself. The first exercise is called therapeutic vibration, right? So we vibrate our hands, we vibrate our legs. When we're lying down beforehand, we vibrate. We vibrate as much as possible. We vibrate our legs exactly like this. We start vibrating, and this way many yogis, they enter a trance, right? Even in this situation. There are different trampolines, there are different discs you can vibrate on, but the more vibration, the better. Vibration helps very well, yes, specifically to stimulate microcirculation when you have a problem and can't move. So yeah, here's an easy exercise that you can use. Another example, right, again, when you can't, you're in bed, is the dynamic striking massage, right? Look at the dynamic strikes. In this way, we strike our entire body, right? That means the belly, the back, the chest, the lymph nodes in the arms, the shoulders, the neck, the chest, the breasts, the legs, the buttocks, the calves, and finally, the sole of the foot. Yes, basically all the way down, whether we're sitting, lying down, or we ask a partner, to do it on our back, on our legs, and you'll see, for example, I'll show you just 3 strikes. In this case, I showed you simple strikes without pain, but if you accept a bit more pain, you'll see the difference, right, in what happens. For example, I did 3 strikes in this area, right? What happens during this time? For instance, initially there's a strong flow, strong information going to the brain. The brain doesn't understand what's happening. And if you notice in both, right, one joint and the other, right, one limb and the other, there's a difference in color. The first thing that happens, the brain doesn't understand what's going on, and it sends the whole autoimmune system there, meaning the lymph we were talking about. Consequently, it sends all the lymph, all the information there. Initially, there's a tingling sensation. Now the tingling is subsiding, which is what I feel right now, right? And in 5 to 7 minutes, the temperature starts to rise too. Here it feels like it belongs to 2 different people. The temperature, this heat, means that the lymph has started flowing in that area. That's why we don't just restore the lymphatic channels and vessels, but we also restore the elbow joint itself, if it's the elbow, or we do it at the knee or shoulder, wherever the problem is, and you'll see how you slowly unblock. This technique was invented by a Russian, yes, Maximo. He does this until bruising occurs. I'm not suggesting you do it until you bruise, at least do some basic simple exercises. If you can endure it, have the stamina, and your health allows, you can do much more. You might have seen in many videos I show, it's in advanced therapeutics or advanced visceral, but I show this technique to students. The third technique, yes, a very good one to kickstart your lymphatic system, is contrast showers. For example, it's winter right now. Many people, if you look online, get into a tub with cold water. Of course, I'm not suggesting you start right away with minus however many degrees. Try starting at 15 degrees and slowly go down to 12 degrees, 10 degrees, 8 degrees, 7 degrees. Slowly go down to 2 degrees, 1 degree, where it's tough, but you need stamina and good health to handle that. If you've seen it, yes, you get into cold water, and when you come out, you're just as red. Practically so many calories, the lymphatic system activates so strongly. In cold water, it activates more than in hot or warm water, though hot water helps too. For example, if you do contrasts, staying in 45-degree hot water, then washing with a cold shower, then hot again, then cold again. Yes, the contrast. For example, with small children, my kids, since they were little, had a cup of cold water poured on their heads. Cold, but not too cold again, 12 degrees. Cold can initially be room temperature if it's a newborn. That's still considered cold for them. And that sudden shock, yes, that sharp contrast in temperature actually works to prevent your children from ever developing bronchitis, pneumonia, or other similar colds like that. In fact, this difference in temperature is what helps protect them from those illnesses. The more we step out of our comfort zone, the better it actually is for our health. So try to implement this in your life. Look at the Russians. There in Russia, it's cold for 4 or 5 months a year, and spermatogenesis develops very well. Yes, meaning the endocrine system is developed to its maximum. That's why many like men who play guitar, the voice, yes, that aggression and toughness in the voice. This also helps restore not just the cardiovascular system, but even the endocrine system, yes, by doing these contrasts. Initially, you can do contrast just on your feet, yes. One leg, then the other, then both, then slowly up to the pelvis, then up to the heart, then to the neck, and finally, once you've built up resistance, dip your head in the cold water too. That is why there are holidays like Epiphany, for example. Yes, when you dive into cold water, in rivers, in various lakes, which is very good and very beneficial. The fourth very important thing, yes, that you need to do to activate your lymphatic system. This involves the intestine, digestion, peristalsis, and the toxins within the intestine. This is your nutrition. Today, acidosis is a very common pathology because toxins in the liver, toxins in the intestine, kidneys, the pancreas, meaning the entire endocrine system having systematic toxins, they lead to acidosis, systematic toxins. But I talk about this a lot in Advanced Visceral, where I explain the difference between, for example, toxins in the pancreas is pancreatitis, acidosis in the pancreas, that is diabetes, toxins in the kidneys, that is pyelonephritis, acidosis in the kidneys, that is renal failure, that is a kidney cyst, and so on. Yes, meaning in this area, which is also toxins in the liver, that is hepatitis, acidosis in the liver, that is cirrhosis. But there are many people specifically with cirrhosis, and that is a consequence of acidosis in the liver. Therefore, acidosis in the organs are very well removed with visceral massage, very well removed with diet and with detox programs, cleanses, yes, meaning including plants. There are plants that clean the lymphatic system like wormwood, like cloves, yes, meaning they specifically clean the lymphatic system. For example, fasting. Yes, meaning one of the best detox programs is fasting. Cleaning, eliminating all toxins, and removing toxins and acidosis from our body with the help of fasting, because many say, but I don't have money, I can't afford it. And they are limited here. How much does it cost to fast for a day? What do you think? How much does it cost to fast for a day? How much does it cost to give yourself a massage? How much does it cost to do some vibrations? Do you understand? Practically today, our knowledge is the most valuable, not money and not what we have around us. Therefore, having knowledge, investing in knowledge, practically you can feel and reach the level of health that you desire. That is why there are many rich people, millionaires, who are rotten with sickness. Then what is their wealth if they are rotten with sickness? They go and get organ transplants, you understand? And this they call health. Health is not obtained like that. Our health is obtained only through actions, only through methods of self-restoration, through self-massage. Or you go to get a massage removing toxins from the organs, massage of the lower limbs and movements and stretching exercises. You remove thrombosis from the legs and so on, unblocking through therapeutic massage or exercises the back, neck, and restoring the entire blood flow and body. So if you like this video, please share it so everyone can see these 4 main mini methods that everyone should practice anytime and anywhere. Subscribe to the page so we can grow the community and become as large and as united as possible. Share this video, subscribe, and good luck.